international date line, but on the other side of the international date line. But I just looked it up. I am, in fact, not the southernmost person here today. The southernmost person is Carolina, who is at minus 35 S, whereas I am only minus 27 S, at least as far as latitudes go. So Chile is even further south than we are here in Australia. I wasn't certain about that, but now I know. But anyway, hello and welcome along. I should do the introductory bit where I tell you all sorts of stuff, but I'm not the Sergeant at Arms and I don't have the Sergeant at Arms script here. But I would tell you that we will be recording this meeting, as you have just heard. We will possibly be using some of this material for our promotion and public relations activities. This is a club made up of members from all over the world, variety of cultures and a variety of cultural experiences. And so there may well be some things that are said which don't meet your cultural norms. That's not an excuse for us to ignore the niceties, however. So please bear that in mind, everybody, that we do have this multicultural audience, and it's nice to think of what meets their needs. Members who actually no, there are I should tell Mitesh this but he was here at the last meeting. To become a member of this club, we ask that you have completed 2 levels in a single path or have substantial presentation experience, particularly as an online presenter. But membership is by invitation. If you wish to join, then let our Vice President membership know, and we will vote on your application and say yes or no. I don't know that we've ever said no, but you know, we do that anyway. All right, so that's all the bit. That's my bit as president. Welcome, everybody. Let's move to the meeting because we only have one formal speech, but we also do have a tip of the day. And I know that Andrew has prepared a fabulous table topic session for us. So we'll have prepared presentations, impromptu presentations, we'll have evaluations, we'll have lots of things. Let me run through some of the roles that we will have. I should tell you first that our meeting theme for today is festivals and celebrations, because I know that there are festivals and celebrations all around the world at this time of year. Canada, for example, has just had its Thanksgiving. I believe that the American Thanksgiving is, if it's not now, it's not far away. There's Halloween coming up in only a couple of weeks. There are, as I say, festivals and celebrations all around the world. So that's our theme for today. And our word for the day will be exuberant, full of energy and excitement and cheerfulness. We'll get more details on that when we go to our grammarian. But first, can I check if our timekeeper, Andre, is ready to be a timekeeper? I can tell that he is because he's got his timer thing there. Andre, can you tell us how you will be indicating times? You're still muted. Whoops.
Well, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day, Graham. I'm the timer. My job is easy peasy. I have a mobile phone with me. With this device, I will be timing you. Timing what is normally prepared speeches, table topics, and evaluations for today as well. The time for prepared speeches today is 5 to 7 minutes. So normally when you've been speaking for enough time, you can start wrapping up. You can see this green sign. Then you spoke for about time you should wrap up. You can see the yellow. And when you really have to wrap up, you have 30 seconds after this red light, and your speech should be over. So keep your eyes open on your top left-hand screen and the word timer on the background. I'll be timing you. Back to
Fabulous. Greg. Thank you. Marianne, you're our grammarian for today. If you'd like to explain your role in a few words.
Yes, I will be listening to you. I'm listening for grammatical faux pas. I am listening for verbal gems and just a great usage of the English language. Again, our word of the day is exuberant, and that is full of energy and excitement. And I'll use it in a sentence for you. Even though Johnny was not a very good basketball player, he had such an exuberant attitude that he came across as one of the stars of the team. Please try to use the word exuberant in your speeches tonight.
Thank you, Grammarian Marianne. Our R counter, which is the flip side of the role, while Marianne is looking for our use of language, the R counter is looking for ums and ahs and other such things. Gregory, will you be looking for anything specific?
No, just people stuttering. Pretty much.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Just making sure that you're in that role. That's good. Now, we have the watcher and chat monitor is Jim. Hello, chatty Jim.
Hello, President Graham. As the watcher, yes, watcher, that's right. As the watcher this evening, Marianne said that she was the grammarian and she was on the lookout for verbal gems. I'm the verbal gem that she was talking about. Marianne said that she was the grammarian. I am basically a visual grammarian. I will be watching everybody, seeing how well they use the visual frame, how well their lighting is, their backgrounds, and all that sort of thing. Basically how they look rather than how they sound. As the chat monitor, this is more of a technical position. I will be following what goes on in the chat. I will be telling our Toastmaster of the day anything. I will be alerting him to anything that might come up that he needs his attention, and otherwise I'll simply be reminding people at the end of the meeting anything that they may have missed in the chat. And that's it.
Thank you, Jim. And our vote counter is Carolina. Carolina, I'm assuming you will be putting a link into the chat for us to vote?
That's right. I will put a link in the chat and you will vote for your favorite speaker in the section table topics.
I don't know that we'll need a best speaker and a best evaluator because there is only one speaker and one evaluator, but we will need to vote on best table topics. So thank you for that, Carolina. All right, that runs through those that are assisting. We don't have any member inductions, so let's now move on to our tip of the day. This is a role which is something that was introduced to this club some months ago. It's an opportunity for a member to present, well, a tip of the day. A tip, a technical tip, a leadership tip, a tip of their choice. And so for a period of up to 6 minutes, so if we could get lights at 4, 5, and 6, please, Mr. Timekeeper, will you please welcome Carolina Ramírez with her tip of the day. Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, the tip of the day will be about leadership and specific about how to give feedback. When you are a leader, you need to motivate your team and you need to encourage your team and correct some behaviors. So these models can be very useful when you are leading. And I want to share 3 models. The first is the 3Ps model. And this goes for praise, problem, and potential. The first step is to praise the person you are giving feedback. Begin by acknowledging the positive. And this is a model that we use a lot here in Toastmasters. The first, you can say, for example, your presentation was detailed and showed a deep understanding of the topic. And then you go to the painful part, when you talk about the problem. Here you can say, however, it was much longer than the allotted time, which left no room for questions. And then you need to add some words about the potential the person has if the issues are addressed, because you need to encourage the person you are leading. Then you can say, or the person you are giving feedback, you can say something like, if you can condense the main points and allow time for interaction, I believe your future presentations will be even more impactful. And that way you raise the mood in the person you are evaluating. Let's talk about the second model I want to show you, the SBI model. And the acronym is about situation, behavior, and impact. And you should use this model when you want to create awareness about a behavior that a person is having. And then for starting, you need to describe the situation. For example, you can say, during yesterday's team meeting, and you start to talk about the situation. Then you need to address the behavior. I noticed that you took over the conversation multiple times, and then you need to talk about the impact that behavior is having on others. For example, you can say, which made some team members feel overshadowed and unable to share their ideas. And that way you create awareness about a behavior that is having impact on others in your team or maybe in another situation. And finally, I want to share with you the Harvard's HEAR framework. This model is about listening to each other, agree, and seek for a solution together. The H is for, the first step is for hedge your claims. You can start with something like, as far as I understand. The E is for emphasize agreement, because you can be on the same page about many things with the person you are evaluating. And then acknowledge the other side's argument. You can say something like, I haven't considered that perspective. And finally, reframe to the positive. Building on what you've said, a solution could be, and you seek or you look for a solution together. Some general feedback tips. The first, be timely. Offer feedback soon after the event behavior occurred, because maybe if you wait too many days, the person is not going to remember what you're saying or remember the actions. It could be confusing. Second, be specific. Back feedback can be confusing. Be clear with the situation and with the facts. Third, listen actively. A leader always has to listen. This is a very important skill, and you know that. Fourth, focus on the behavior, not the person, because this is not a personal attack. You have to talk about the behavior, about the problem, not about the person. Reinforce positive behavior. All of us want to know what we are doing well, not only criticism, but reinforce what you're doing well and celebrate your achievements. Use I statements, because as I said before, this is not a personal attack. For instance, I felt overwhelmed when blah blah blah, rather than you always do something. And finally, a rule, the 5-1 feedback ratio. For every piece of constructive or negative feedback, aim to give 5 positive feedbacks. This is based on the idea that positive reinforcement can often be more effective than negative reinforcement. I hope that these tips are useful for you. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you for that tip of the day. And that I thought was particularly useful for those of us who are involved in giving feedback, not just here in Toastmasters, but in the wider world. In fact, and I'm going to step on the role of the general evaluator here just for a moment. In fact, I'd like to use something that Carolina just said then and try to put that into practice. She spoke about using praise, looking at a potential problem, and then a potential way to solve it. I loved that presentation. I thought it was really effective, and I thought that the slides were effective, but there is a potential way that you could improve it. If, for example, you had the things on the left-hand side, the outlining, this is what we're talking about, and not shown the things on the right-hand side, which was, here is an example of what I am talking about. If you had those come in as you were speaking about those specifically, then it would have even engaged us even more. But I've got to say, there were so many really good and useful tips in here. I like the triple P. I like the situation behavior improvement. I love the hearing technique from hedging your claims, emphasizing agreement, acknowledging the argument, reframing the positive. And most of all, I loved the notice that we shouldn't just acknowledge, we shouldn't just make suggestions about what they could do to improve, but we should say what the person has done that is worth celebrating and continuing. So thank you very much for, I think, one of the best tip of the days that I've seen presented here. Cogent, intelligent, and I was enthusiastic to hear it. In fact, I was more than enthusiastic. I was positively exuberant to take in all of that information. See, I got to use the word of the day, probably misusing it, but I got to use it anyway. But thank you for that. Now, as I say, I know that I've probably stolen that from the general evaluator, but I'm sure he won't be upset. Or if he is upset, well, life's tough. Time now to move to our presentation of the day. We only have one formal speaker today, and that's Kirthikka, who is speaking from the Dynamic Leadership Level 4. This is the building skills level, and she's doing Manage Online Meetings. Her presentation is called Glow with the Flow, and the speech is crafted to celebrate and reciprocate the online meeting protocols, needs, and the things that we need to do with our global presence. So the time for this presentation is 5 to 7 minutes, I understand, Kirthikka? Yes. So if I can have lights at 5, 6, and 7, please, Mr. Timekeeper. Will you please welcome our speaker for today, Kirthikka, with Glow with the Flow.
Thank you, Toastmaster. Graham, before starting my speech, I just want to confirm if my video is visible.
The video is visible, yes.
Okay. At the right size?
It is full screen.
Great. Yes.
Well, it's showing up square on my screen, I guess, if that's okay.
Yep,
Okay.
that'll work.
I'm just starting right now. Okay. Hi, I am Kirthikka Devi Venkataram. I am a member of Online Presenters Club. I hold a decade of experience working on cutting-edge technologies over 10 years. I, as a Toastmaster, perceive information articulating with integrity in delivery, respect fellow Toastmasters and peers, communicate and influence without authority, building a better version of a leader in me. Online Presenters, a fully virtual advanced Toastmaster club, manifests maverick mavens who were with Toastmasters over a decade. Their myriad exposure and profound knowledge gives us an inclusive experience, making us a truly international club and our presence. We have the phenomenal tip of the day in our meetings where we discuss about business, technology, and leadership-based skills and tips which are relevant to the market trend. I feel excited and creating and presenting content using new technologically approved tools, the advanced tools, which increases my business presentation skills, improving my material efficiency. This learning and sharing experience also causes a domino effect in our club. I strongly believe that online presenters would redound my career progression and redefine my strengths. Okay, let's quickly get into what is the celebration that we are speaking about this month. I would like to share in this regard the Toastmasters timeline. Don't be intimidated with the size of the timeline. It's going to be all right. I will just walk you through the important notes which are required in this timeline. In 1905, Ralph C. Smedley performed his first unofficial Toastmasters meeting. After which, in 1932, Toastmasters International was incorporated, taking the first club, Toastmaster Club, as its member. By 1950, it reached a milestone 100, and there were a lot of other districts which were following it. By 1946, the first outside US district was formed as District 18 of Scotland. In 1969, new communication and leadership program was introduced. Then in 1995, the first website was launched. In 2020, beginning the pandemic period, free public speaking webinar series and pathways was taken into consideration for as the official education program, providing free public speaking webinars to all members. We also, as a Toastmaster, have the privilege of evaluating the younger generation through the youth club. This year, October 2022, the pre-centennial celebration of Toastmasters Club, the first club of Toastmasters International, is turning 99. Envisioned to build future leaders through experiential communication and leadership skill development, this started as a public speaking requirement through Smedley in 1905 that drastically grew up over a period in this 100 years into a massive organization, a non-profit organization holding 270,000 plus members in 148 countries and its presence in 14,200 plus clubs. If we could evaluate its growth, the exuberance shown by its members is the main reason. Apart from the exuberance, what else is the value that Toastmasters provides you is the core principles of Toastmasters: the integrity, service, excellence, and leadership. Thus, Toastmasters is always a place for us, not only to groom, brush up, but also to become potentially efficient, growing ourselves in a place of secured environment, providing us an opportunity to deliver and become skillful. Okay, let me quickly grab you into a question answer session. Here we are. Are you able to see the Menti questions being posted to you? Because we have a Toastmasters celebration coming up shortly, I would just quickly like to hold your thoughts on the understanding of Toastmasters. So there is just 2 questions over here. Log into menti.com and type the code if you're not able to see the Menti to be collaborative in the meeting.
If we do that, most of us will actually leave your speech, which is a bit of a problem.
Okay, so I am allowing Menti to be available in the Toastmasters meeting. There are 2 questions over here. One is posted over here. Just let me quickly grab the window, not to deviate from our topic of discussion. Where is the headquarters of Toastmasters?
Denver.
Denver, Colorado, right. Where the next question is, who is the first female president of Toastmasters?
That would be Helen Blanchard.
Helen.
That's
Oh, the first female president was Margaret Page. Helen Blanchard was the first female member.
Okay.
No, she was the first president of Toastmasters. Her name is Helen Blanchard. She joined under the name of Homer because they didn't accept women when she joined. And ultimately, they did allow women, and ultimately, she did become the first president.
Obviously, that's the right answer. So Helen Blanchard was the first female president of Toastmasters. And for the first question, yes, it is in Colorado. Fine. What are we learning in this particular session, being a Toastmaster and being an online presenter, is the phenomenal growth that Toastmasters has shown in this 100 years is our inspiration. We need to become agile and consistent in our growth over a period of time. Nevertheless, there might be war, unprecedented, unwelcoming threats, but we need to grow, taking Toastmasters Club as well as Medley as our reference and model to grow in our life. Thank you, Toastmasters. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kirthikka, for that go with the glow. Thank you very much. Time now to move on to table topics to allow our evaluator time to evaluate that presentation. And our table topics today are going to be presented by Andrew Byrne, DTM ×3. Now that's just showing off. I have a distinguished Toastmaster and I'm about to get my second DTM, but Andrew has already beaten me and got 3 of them. So Andrew, take it away. Table topics is all yours. Please explain what we'll be doing today.
Okay, first I will call on the timer to tell us the time parameters for table topics.
Time for table topics is 1 to 2 minutes.
Okay, and I'm going to throw out a question or a statement and ask for your opinion or evaluation of that, and we will take it from there. We are now approaching the 100th year of Toastmasters. The meeting will be held where the first club was in Anaheim, California, near Walt Disney World. And the question that I have for you is this: what are you thinking about 100 years? What has occurred in 100 years that you have learned about that are completely amazed? We've heard about the growth of Toastmasters through the last presentation. What other things have you heard about that are reaching the 100th year anniversary? And I'll choose Jim Barber.
Jim Barber, who was busily writing his evaluation. Yes, indeed. Yes, Mr. Topics Master. It's not exactly a 100th anniversary, but 100 years ago, this year, my father was 10 years old. And as a 10-year-old in rural Georgia, he grew up on a small farm in the country of Georgia, in the countryside of Georgia, the state of Georgia. He went to school. The school, his education, book learning as he called it, took place in a one-room schoolhouse. That was the only education they could provide in that area. In the one-room schoolhouse, picture this, they had about 20, 22 kids, children of different ages, of different grade levels, studying different subjects. And so the teacher could make sure that they were actually studying and not daydreaming or zoning out. The teacher would walk up and down the aisles of the classroom while the students read from their textbooks out loud so the teacher could make sure that they were actually doing their work. So you can imagine the cacophony of noise that was going on with 20 or so different students reading out loud 20 different things. That was education in rural Georgia 100 years ago. It has changed considerably since then. I think it's going to change even more because education is having trouble keeping up with everything that's happening right now. And so it's revolutionizing itself. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen in the next 10 years. Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Barber. The other thing that's 100 years this year is Walt Disney Company is 100 years old. So it's appropriate that Toastmasters is celebrating 100 years while Disney is also celebrating that. I don't know the name of the person that says all nations. Who are you?
Oh, that's me. I'm Farah.
There. You can change it by going to the top right-hand side and go to rename, and then you can put your real name in. This question will be going in your direction. We've heard a lot about AI, or artificial intelligence, and we've seen lots of different programs talk about artificial intelligence. Have you yourself gone and used ChatGPT or any of the other programs that are touting artificial intelligence? Tell us about that.
Thank you for controversial topic for teachers right now. Last May, we had a meeting about how we have to watch out students using ChatGPT to writing an essay instead of them writing their thoughts, their opinion, and their input with the author's point of view or author's against the author's point of view. Nowadays, kids use tons of ChatGPT, and then we did talk about that's how unethical for students to use it because it's not their work, it's not their thoughts, it's not their opinion. It's an accumulation of data collected from the database and being used to write an essay. However, after that staff meeting, I got invited to how to use ChatGPT to do lesson planning. So that was very interesting. I actually installed it during the meeting because they're asking us this kind of question. Did you know that ChatGPT could do this for you? And then one of the things we tried was create fun project activity to teach algebra 2 polynomial function that involves teamwork with grading rubric and guiding questions. And then we typed that into the question, and then it was able to do it within 10 seconds.
Wow.
And then that will be something interesting because when I create a project, first I see what's out there according to the topic, like polynomial functions, and then what kind of project has been done and what kind of teacher have been done. Look for student example. Is that going to work for my class at my class level? Are they able to accomplish that? And then that will be 3 hours of research right there. Just figuring out one project. Hey, is that going to work for my class? Are they able to deliver what I want them to expect to bring to the classroom and to have a presentation on? And that will be a lot of work. And then ChatGPT could do it in like 10 seconds. So if it's used for teachers, I think it could be beneficial, but it's for use for students, and students will stop thinking. And that's our big worries, not able to think or critically think or cognitively think. So that's been issue in teenager age. So thank you for good questions. back to you.
Okay, and as you probably aware, there are now 2 different companies that have put out a Chat GPT screener to let you know if the program and the essays created were done by Chat GPT or not. Just to let you know. Gregory, you talked about doing video and other presentations coming up. Did you know that there is a program called Canva, which is a graphical program, now has what it calls magic, and it has AI built into the program. It allows you to do prompts, and it will generate anywhere from 10 to 20 presentation slides, completely written out, completely organized, and done on Canva. Have you seen that? Do you think that might be of use for you?
Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it because it's something that I will use. I am familiar with Canva. I used it actually to develop a pitch once before for a contest that was done approximately 2 or 3 months ago. And my mentor is the one who had introduced Canva to me. And it seemed like quite a simple program to use. And now when you start looking at all the AI, and guilty as accused, I use it repeatedly and often for most of my work or a lot of my work. I mean, how could you not? And especially when you start to understand what its potentials are, like Farah had mentioned. So with the opportunity of introducing AI similar to what I already use and being able to design presentations, it is very possible I could be coming up to become quite the pitch machine over the next year. So with that being the case, most of my work will be in podcasts. So being able to use that potentially as backdrops or even offering for presentations would be incredibly beneficial. Because even now, when you start looking at developing complete fertigation schedules and zoning and lights and developing all different type of different metrics, ChatGPT is just amazing of doing that, and even developing even the AI or the accounting for all the performance that I end up doing. So it's an amazing program. So with Canva, being able to present what ChatGPT is able to provide and being able to integrate those two makes me quite a happy individual. Now, how far do we end up going with regards to this? I really don't know yet, as a consequence of not having used Canva for the AI portion, but I will say that it is a tool that will be used. That's pretty much all I have to say, I guess, on that, without knowing anything too terribly more. So I guess I'll pass that back off to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Okay. Next question is, you have a beautiful background slide, Marianne. I really value it, appreciate it. I'm exuberant about your slide. But there are AI programs that will generate illustrations or artwork. And the big controversy is, who owns the artwork? The one perfect example of that was carried on 60 Minutes, and it talked about an individual who used one of these artwork generating programs, and he sold it for $60,000 because it looked like something done by one of the famous artists of the middle century kind of thing, around the time of Michelangelo. And he generated that, he sold it, and then they accused him of fraud because it was done by the computer. What would you use this for if you had it, Marianne?
Well, still in move-in time in my house, I probably would use it to make things to decorate my walls. But with that said, the situation you described, I really truly believe if they paid $60,000 for it, art is such a subjective thing. It's a situation where it's let the buyer beware. I mean, if they marketed it and said it was done by somebody else, yes, that's fraud. But if they just put it up there and didn't really describe all the detail, I don't know, maybe this person, wasn't such a smart buyer. So I believe that we are going to be facing a lot of these ethical dilemmas when it comes to AI. And I have used it, I have tried it, and it is pretty darn amazing when you use it. But I do fear for the generation coming up that they won't think and that they won't, kind of be able to cope the same way as previous generations have. So I believe it's both a blessing and a curse, and I can see both sides, and I really have a hard time falling down fully against it. But the painting, I think that's just like, don't be a dummy. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Okay. David has been known to be involved in politics from here and there. One of the things that AI has done is to create a complete fake of a human being. An example is a famous political individual was copied using AI, the voice, the picture, and then they made him like a puppet say anything that he wanted. And when you saw the video, you couldn't believe that it wasn't real. David, what have you seen or done or contemplated that fits into this category of the use of AI?
Well, Andy, it's going to be a huge problem in politics and probably a lot of other areas that the real and the not real is going to be very hard to distinguish. We already have a lot of problems in our culture with people not knowing what to believe, not knowing whether to believe what used to be called the mainstream media, the mainstream news. They're not so trustful of that. Some people are more trustful of the conspiracy theories that they hear from their great aunt Edna than they are from what they hear from CNN. And video evidence has been one of the gold standards. If you captured it on video, then obviously it really happened. And now we're not so sure. I did do some work with Bloomberg recently on deep fake pornography, which revolves around actors and actresses who never really did get naked. Well, you can see them naked and you can see them performing all sorts of sex acts. Well, let's bring that together with politics. And, what obscene thing did the candidate that somebody doesn't like going to be shown doing on video, and it's going to look very realistic, and they'll deny it? And who's going to know whether their denial should be believed? So we are entering an era that is very dangerous on many dimensions, where nobody knows whether they can believe what they see.
Thank you, Toastmaster Carr. Toastmaster Mitesh, would you like to handle a question?
Yeah, so what sort of question do you want me to answer? The same question?
No. I'll give you a brand new one that you can answer, and I know that you'll be exuberant
All right, thank you.
answering that.
All right, thank you.
All right. One of the things that we are looking at is not just the AI, but true robotics. We've seen robots do all sorts of things. What would you like your robot to do?
All right. Yes, I would like my robot to fold my clothes and make my bed, because that's the only two things I'm really lazy about. Folding my clothes and making my bed. I can do everything in the world you tell me to do when it comes to these two things, I'm pretty lazy and maybe I'm not interested as well. Other things are pretty much good, like cleaning, cooking, everything is fine, groceries, laundry. Yes, but over the years, I think like life change a lot. As you grow older, you take on more responsibilities. And a lot of your circumstances change. The weather has changed quite a lot. So I'm not able to cope up with the adulteration in the country as well as the routine because it's hot. It's very hot, and I'm not able to withstand the weather, hot and humid weather here in India. So I'm trying to move overseas, but whenever it happens, it happens. But I live in today, in the present, and that's what it is all about. Not making lot of appointments in the future. Thank you. Over to you, Table Topics Master.
Okay, I enjoyed your exuberant answer. Next question. Everybody has their unique place where they're living, and as they promote those places to others, what would you think about? Carolina, you live in a different place than most of us in the Southern Hemisphere. What is it that you would promote to another individual saying, come visit me here in Chile?
Come and visit me here in Chile because we have the driest desert in the world, in the north of Chile. And then you can visit some beaches as well. It's a mix between desert and the ocean. The water is very cold, but the landscape is beautiful. And if you travel to the south, you can see the Chilean Patagonia. Maybe you have watched some videos about the Patagonia. You can see several animals, exotic animals, a big forest, some waterfalls, Torres del Paine, two big mountains. You can do some trekking, you can rent a bike, and I forgot something. We have the cleanest sky in the world. So if you like to watch stars and you like to know more about the planets or the constellations, you can take a tour in the north, and you will know more about the space. My boyfriend is Spaniard and he's an astrophysics, and he visited Chile because he wanted to know the cleanest sky in the world. And follow his example, and maybe you can meet a Chilean girl, as he did. Back to you.
Oh, thank you very much. In the United States, Maui has a huge observatory on the top of one of their mountains. And I don't know if it's as high in elevation as it is in Chile, but it's got an observatory, and they chose that because the lighting in Maui is not really going up to where the observatory is, and you can see all stars and constellations as well. So is there a famous observatory that people can go to in Chile?
Yes, we have here ALMA.
And
ALMA is a big observatory.
okay,
ALMA.
not to leave Kirthikka away, what's special about where you live? And would you recommend others to go there for that special thing that you can identify?
If I understand the question correctly, what special thing that I would recommend for the special
For someone visiting where you live?
personal visiting where I live? Okay. So my place is at the breadth of Western Ghats, where we see mountain, terrains, cool breeze, which is experienced all through the year. It is a tropical region. There isn't great monsoons. Instead, we have cold weather, but not like kind of mist and mystical that blocks the road. This makes us to drive maybe in a two-wheeler or a car over the mountain ghats, have a beautiful ride near to lakes, ponds, and wildlife sanctuaries, which is there, a protective biosphere, specially accommodating lot of endangered animals. And we also have a bird sanctuary. This has a history of holding at least 260 species of birds, which is quite rare to find, few are quite rare to find in many different places apart from here. I would certainly recommend the visitors to visit all these places filled with natural resources more than the commercial places that is also there that I could not deny about. In having a beautiful experience of the new place and the environment. Over to you, Toastmaster Andrew.
Okay. Well, Graham, you can't let Kirthikka talk about unique animals and not talk about Australia and their unique animal life. What could you tell about people wanting to come to Australia for the unique experiences? What would you say?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, come to Australia, where we have the world's most amazing animals and they all want to kill you. That's not true, actually, but we do actually joke about how we have so many dangerous animals. In fact, of the most venomous snakes in the world, I think we have 7 out of the 10. Of the most venomous spiders, we have, sort of 8 out of the 10. We have crocodiles. We have cassowaries, which are giant birds about the size of an ostrich, but which have razor-sharp claws, which will tear you apart if you let them. Kangaroos, cute, cuddly kangaroos. You've seen the kangaroo boxing, that they are actually like that. They will fight you. But while there are animals that will try and kill you, most of them will run away from you. Most of them will stay away because they realize that the most dangerous animal in the whole world is us. And whilst our weather is hot at times and cold at times, it's sort of mostly, though, in the Goldilocks zone. I love this country. I really do. I genuinely love Australia. I admit that we sometimes play up the dangerousness of this place. But I will say this, you're less likely to die in a school shooting here than you are in some other places in the world. Our kangaroos and our koalas, they don't have AK-47s, but I wish I'd got some of your earlier questions, I have to tell you. I was thinking, as you're talking about things that have changed in 100 years, my industry, radio, effectively began around 1923. By 2023, it has almost died because people are listening in different ways. My career, journalism, reached its zenith, if you like. Zenith? Yes. In around about the 1950s, 1960s, perhaps the 1970s. I fear that we are heading towards a nadir because it is impossible to tell what is real and what is not anymore. We are becoming a postmodern society. That is, we are very cynical about everything because we don't know what we can believe. We don't know what we can see. I'm not going to be here in 100 years. I'm not sure I'd like to. Mr. Topicsmaster.
Thank you very much. And to not leave out Andre, tell us about the favorite sport in Manchester, soccer.
Well, Mr. Table Topicsmaster, it's really, really easy to tell. probably locals who live next to two infamous football stadiums in Manchester. One of them is Manchester United football grounds, and the second one is, of course, Manchester City football grounds. And when I'm just happy to live next to Man United. However, twice a week, sometimes even 3 times a week, the traffic gets so bad that all them tens of thousands of fans from in and around the world are flooding into the Manchester. And do you really think we locals appreciate that? Not even in a second. Because imagine all them hundreds of parents rushing their children off school, and all them traffic wardens, and it's a lot of traffic on the streets, and it's getting on and on and on. The same time about Manchester City. So when you probably live, or if you ever had an experience living next to one of the major sporting events, you would understand that there is no shame of saying, no, we don't want it in our back garden. What we want to do, just go somewhere else to make a journey, a nice day out of it. At the same time, yes, people in Manchester are mad about football. You can't take it away from them. And in the pubs and the restaurants, and even when you're chatting to girls, the first subject you would raise, are you red or you are blue? I'll let you decide. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Well, Mr. Toastmaster of the day, we've gone through everybody that's been visiting with us today and our members. I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master. And minute 39, by the way, for you, Andre. So you actually, well, probably about a minute 40, but we'll let you say you're within time anyway. If you can put the times into the chat. So actually, just tell us, did everybody qualify for the best table topics?
According to my calculations, most of the people qualified. I'm not sure about Farah, and I'll let you call the shots on this one.
We'll let Farah qualify anyway. Executive decision. Everybody who's spoken table topics could win the table topics. And if our timekeeper, sorry, if our vote counter, Carolina, can put there's the link, please go and vote for your best table topic presenter. Time now to move to our general evaluation section, and to run the evaluations and get the reports from our functionaries. Please welcome our general evaluator for today, David Carr.
Oh my gosh, that's me. Well, I don't know how I'm going to keep track of all the evaluators we have to evaluate all our speakers tonight. Let me check my notes. One speaker, one evaluator. Please welcome to the virtual stage, Jim Barber.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Kirthikka, I always enjoy hearing you speak, and frankly always enjoy evaluating your presentations. You are professional in your presentation. The words that I wrote down at the very beginning, what you are when you speak, it's a quiet exuberance. You are enthusiastic about what you're saying. It doesn't bubble up. It's not traditional exuberance. It's a quiet exuberance, but it comes through. We know that you care about what you are speaking, and it comes through to us. You're dedicated. You're committed to delivering your message. You have a very strong vocabulary. I like that. And you couple that with a strong diction, and verbally you come across very, very well. Your preparation. You are one of the more prepared presenters in the club. You put a lot of time and effort into your presentations, and again, it shows. I did have a suggestion for you. When you put up the slide for the Toastmasters timeline, I said, come on, you did it on this one. Way too small, way too detailed for us to see. But Then you surprised me. You zoomed into the appropriate part that you could talk about. That was so well done. I liked that. You took what was going to be a suggestion and actually raised it into a strong point. I liked that. I do have a couple of suggestions for you, though. I think the first one I have mentioned before. As far as I'm concerned, you are the star of your presentation. But when you present slides, and you are simply a little Zoom square off on the side, my attention is drawn between the two. The slides were very good, and I'm looking at the slide. Then I look over at you over on the side. Then I look back at the slide. I look back at you. I look back at the slide, and it's difficult. If you could find a way of incorporating your visual image into the slides, into the visual frame, kind of like you have right now, you have the Toastmasters across the top. Instead of having that, if you could actually put your slides behind you, that could work. Different things you could try. I don't know if there is the correct way, but I would just like to see you be a star of your presentation a little bit more. The other suggestion doesn't involve technology, and you, Graham picked up on this. Asking your audience a question to vote on something, A or B, raise their hands. In person, that is a great way to involve your audience, to get them interactive. But online, you run the real danger of it interrupting the flow of your presentation. You're no longer the star of the presentation. People's attention goes off in another direction. And that's not something that you want to encourage. So I would find a different way of doing it, kind of like you did later. You made it into a more of a rhetorical question, and that worked better. So these are small points, though. This was another great presentation, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next time. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
You're still muted, David.
I'm not muted now. Okay. You hear me now?
We hear you
Okay.
now.
All right. If we can master this technology after 6 years, I should be getting this down. Anyway, let's run through our reports from the different supporters of our meeting today. Let's start with our grammarian, Marianne. Give us a little summary of what you heard.
Well, tonight was very interesting. I'll start with Carolina. Praise problem potential. By doing what you did, it made it very easy for people to remember. Situation, behavior, and impact. And that acronym is also great. I'm going to give you a little tip in here. For when you're responding to a job interview question about your accomplishments, you tell them the situation, what you did, and the impact it had. And it's a great tip to make you be very succinct in your interview so you don't ramble. But wonderful. Jim, cacophony of noise. Farah, critically think, cognitively think. Gregory, quite a happy individual, and nothing fancy there, but I just liked it. David, video gold standard, but not so sure now. You used the word obscene, which is something we don't hear very often. And who's to say if the denial can be believed? Graham, kangaroos don't have AK-47s. Now, some of these sentences aren't fancy, but just think the way they're constructed, they capture your attention. And finally, Jim's strong vocabulary, strong diction. Thank you, everybody. That is my report. Back to you,
Marianne.
David.
Now it's time for our chatty watcher. Chatty watcher, can you combine those two roles?
I will do my
longer. Yeah.
best, Mr. General Evaluator. Actually, the chat is very easy. I didn't notice anything of great consequence. However, it's not a bad idea to simply save the chat. You're not wasting very many electrons. It's not an endangered species or anything. So save the chat just in case you need to refer back to it sometime later on. Visually, as the watcher, I think everybody did a great job, as you always. One exception is our newest member, Gregory. Your lighting is great. I love it. Yeah, I like your blurred background. Very good. You're not making the best use of the visual frame. You're in a relatively small part of it. You should be occupying usually about 1/3 of the visual frame. The exception would be if you're using the background to display something, then that would be different. But otherwise, either get closer to the camera, or maybe if your camera has there you go, or if your camera has a zoom feature, zoom in on yourself a little bit more, but make a little bit better use of the visual frame. Otherwise, you were great and everybody else was great too, Mr. GE.
All right. Our R counter today was Gregory, our newest member. And I would love to hear from you what you heard that hopefully doesn't involve me, that on the verbal foot faults of the meeting.
Well, we'll take care of you first then, David. And I ended up catching 3 as you ended up going through that. But I have to say, for the most part, everyone did really well. And it's really quite inspiring in the fact that you can see as everyone's going through this, that they're catching themselves. And what I did end up recognizing, I mean, when you, Graham, for the last few meetings that I've been there, I've hardly even hear you say any of it. Jim, the same thing. It's actually quite inspirational. So I'm in the right place. Andre, same thing. Just when you were starting to end up going through it, the introduction, I caught a couple, but as you ended up doing your preparation for the table topics, I didn't hear anything. Kirthikka, really good job. I know that you're always conscious on how you end up using your words. I only caught one in what you did for a speech, which I thought was fantastic. Carolina, same thing. The way that you end up speaking too, very eloquent in the way that you end up using your words. I only caught 3 with you. Marianne, same thing. Great job. I didn't catch anything with you. Andrew as well. And here I am going through a bunch of ums that I really need to have a lot of work with. So, but Andrew, once again, a great job. Medish, new person. He ended up having quite a few, probably nervous just for starting out. I ended up having a bunch, 15, but things to work on. Probably have 15 just as I was doing this. So that's not even an issue. It's why we're here to learn. Praha, same thing. I caught 3 with you. Great job. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gregory. I think that's all the assigned helper roles. Anybody who I missed, please speak up.
Only Carolina with the vote.
Only Carolina with the vote. Well, why don't we get that now?
The winner?
Sure.
The winner is Carolina Ramírez. Ah!
Hey, the fix was in. All right. So I have an opportunity to say a few overview things about the meeting. You know, one of the basic ones is we'd love to have a few more people here and more than one person signed up to speak. On the other hand, there is virtue in having a meeting that's a little bit less crowded, that has room for table topics. One of the goals I always heard for a Toastmasters meeting, which we are more observant of sometimes than others, is to provide an opportunity for every single person to speak. You know, it could just be introducing their role or giving a report, or it could be table topics. And we did find a way to involve everybody. Dr. Burns stepped in on short notice and whipped together a good table topic session. One thing I would say to be cautious of as the topics master is giving prompts that actually become little speeches, where there's a lot of explanation and background required to set it up. I mean, I don't think it was excessive this time, but it's something to be conscious of. I think, you know, the AI topic is enough out there in the market that everybody's at least a little bit informed, maybe a little bit misinformed too, about what it can and can't do. But you know, it's an interesting topic for many people. I didn't hear this in the watchers report, so I'll say a good word about Andre and the way he was using the timing. He had to create, I'm not sure how he had it set up, but the way the colored squares slid into view was pretty nifty. I thought I saw some Ukrainian flag colors in there. I'm not sure that was how intentional that was, probably a little bit. God bless that. But it was a creative use. The only negative though that I saw there was that you're off screen almost the entire meeting, not just when you were showing the different colors, but you just had a slide up saying, I'm the timer. And it's kind of good and bad because that does remind everybody of where to look for the timer. But we want to see your face. We want to see you engaged in the meeting. If you had reasons to be off screen because of your yawning or something, that's a different matter. But good meeting overall. I think we made the best of what we had to work with today. I did have one final thing for Kirthikka. Your speech included that prompt to go off to this other website. And we talked about whether that's good or bad. I think it's good as long as it's a short thing and you tell people, I'm just going to go here and ask you to maybe answer one question as opposed to clicking away from the screen. But if you are going to share a link, share it in the chat. And if there's a code, share that in the chat. Maybe do it before you begin speaking or have it ready to just paste into the chat somewhere along in your speech. It's sometimes trickier, easier said than done to do that smoothly, but think about ways that you can take advantage of what's going on in the medium. With that, I think I am done. Let me turn it back to our Toastmaster of the day, who is also our president, who can wrap up the meeting.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much for your general evaluation. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions today. As David mentioned, we were the cool kids here. It would be nice to have a few more of our members here, but we had fun. I'm going to ask for guest comments, if I may, and I'll start with Mitesh. This is any observations from you about today's meeting, how you found it?
I think I quite liked the last meeting because I think the turnout was less today. But all in all, I think it was a good meeting. Thank you. Over to you, Graham.
Thank you. And thank you for coming along. We'd love to see you again as a guest. You know where we are. You know when we meet. Farah, we've got to stop meeting like this. I've seen you in a number of meetings over the last few weeks. How did you find our meeting today?
Today's meeting was great. I like looking at the slide that Kirthikka made for leadership. I'm kind of interested in leadership as well. And, it was a table topic today was really fun. Like it was interesting and something I struggle with my children too. Like, hey, stop using ChatGPT. That kind of conversation takes place in my home. So other than that, I enjoyed evaluation as well. So
I don't know if you saw in the chat, but I work for a company that tracks web metrics.
Oh, okay.
GPT use dropped off over the summer. As soon as school was back in session, it zoomed back up.
Well,
and they use a lot of PhotoMath. It's an app that they take a picture of a math problem and it solve it for you. All the steps are shown. My students use it a lot too. So there's tons of app out there.
And there are indeed.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks for coming along, and we'd love to see you again as our guest, or of course, if you'd like to join us, we'd welcome your contribution.
I actually contact Kim Liming, and then I'm trying to wait and see what she says because I did pay. I fill out the application and read it.
Yes. And in fact, I saw a vote on that. And let me just check. I don't think I've seen the results of the vote. We'll get back to you. We're not far away. I promise. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Looking at our next meeting, I will actually be on a cruise ship, but I've put myself down as a speaker anyway, because I'm one of those people who cannot possibly go 19 days without internet access. I just, the very thought fills me with untrammeled fear. But anyway, so we have a speaker for our next meeting, but I don't believe we have many of the other roles. We have our Toastmaster of the day is Marianne Grady. Yay! Thank you, Marianne. And we have our chat monitor is Kirthikka I'm down as a speaker. We have Mike Woodall, who was to be today's general evaluator, but he will be our topics master at our next meeting. We need evaluators. We need a general evaluator. We need a topics. So if you'd like to fill in the roles, please. Yes.
I'll sign up to speak. I don't know what about, but.
All right. If you can go on and do it. Yep. And Gregory, I know Gregory wants to get started speaking. So yes, you're down as well, Gregory. Yeah, Andrew. You're muted, but.
Yeah, I'll do the evaluation.
Excellent. You're still muted, Andrew. No.
I'll be GE unless that's what Andrew was saying. Andy was saying he wanted.
Don't know. No, all right. Well, look, I'll fill in what I've got there. Please go to the website, add yourself to the roles. It is the easiest website I have ever come across to add yourself to a role. Please do that. And yes, Gregory, hang about for a few minutes after the meeting. I'd love to talk to you. And also, I've been asked if I can hang around to talk to Marianne. So, yep. On that note, I will declare the meeting closed. I sure want to stop the cloud.